Welcome to the Panic Button. I'm Nina.
I'm Jessie.
Today we're reacting to Jordan Peterson.
Today we are reacting to Jordan Peterson.
We are
The criminal physician.
And Ellen Page just had her breasts cut off by a criminal physician.
Criminal physician, exactly. So my question is the physician really criminal? If you agree that adults can decide to transition, then why would the physician be criminal? Don't adults have that right if they want to transition?
Not everything legal isn't criminal. And do they have that right? See, I would have left Ellen Page alone if she hadn't been parading her new abs in a fashion magazine. How many kids do you think she can convince to convert? One?
Yeah.
1,000? No, not
See,
yeah.
No,
Really?
I know at least one person who loved Ellen Page and now loves Elliot Page and totally bought into all of this. So let me just say it's a real world thing. It's probably more people than we can even think of.
With the trans community, it's very similar to the gay community, where back when that first became a big issue, people thought, oh, if we talk about it, if it's in magazines or whatever, we're promoting kids to go down that path. But really what happened is people are who they are. And if
That
they're
is what
gay, they
happened.
just decided to be
No.
like, yeah, I'm gay. And they were just more open and honest.
I don't like how he's relating being gay to being trans. If you put a gay person in a magazine that's not trying to transition kids into being gay, but if you're putting like a trans person on the cover of a magazine, that would be manipulating children into transitioning, because you can't medically transition yourself to being gay. You're just born that way, but you can medically transition yourself when you're trans.
Yes, you cannot medically transition yourself into being gay.
No.
I do disagree with something you said, though, that it's not going to inspire kids to want to be. Because I think that if you put a gay person on a magazine cover today, it does influence other people to want to be gay. Want to be. Like you said, you cannot medicalize that. But that's the difference, is that they might want to be, but they can't change that.
Because it's glorified.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that in today's day and age, no matter what, you put a gay man, trans man, at this point, they're going to run with it. Anyone. You take any of those things, and either side, depending on who they are, they're going to run with it.
With themselves. So I don't think you're promoting people to do that.
No,
You're
that's
just
not
saying,
what happened.
if you
You're
are that, it's
completely
okay.
wrong.
Okay, well,
You're utterly
I'm
wrong.
listening.
There's
I'm
nothing
listening.
about that that's right.
So
Well,
explain. I'm
there's been
listening.
an absolute look. One of the reasons that I opposed this pronoun compelled speech bill was because I knew perfectly well what was going to happen when we introduced confusion about gender identity into the public sphere. Now, the argument was that if we left people with gender dysphoria alone to make their own way and stop torturing them, we would decrease the mental health load on those individuals. And my analysis as a clinician was that for every one person of that sort that we hypothetically save, we doom 1,000 more as a consequence of confusion and social contagion. I knew the literature on psychogenic epidemics. They used to call that mass hysteria. Often when you introduce social confusion, you can produce a psychogenic epidemic, especially among, generally it's adolescent females who are most susceptible to it. So I thought, oh, well, what's going to happen is we'll produce a psychogenic epidemic of gender dysphoria among adolescent females. And that is exactly what's happened. And it isn't the fact that we've freed up people who are in doubt about their identity to be who they are. That may have happened in a tiny minority of cases. It's absolutely and definitely the case that we've doomed thousands of kids to brutal, mutilating surgery and premature sterility. And we've done that on the altar of our hypothetical moral virtue and compassion.
I think social confusion is the best way to put that, and I like that as a title of this episode.
Social confusion?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's true, because what did I just say? It doesn't matter where you fall, as long as you're a special group, in whatever case that might be, you get put on the cover of a magazine or in a news article, and all of a sudden, now you're propped up like this hero. You're confusing not only children, but these adults also. There's a lot of confused adults. And if they're not confused, they're scared. They're scared to talk about things like I'm willing to talk about. Because it's a dangerous game to play. It shouldn't be. Though doing one dooms 1,000, I don't necessarily agree with that statistic. I do agree that there's a small minority of people that probably got a chance to be themselves. I don't know how you feel about that, though.
I feel like they're doing the Christians' jobs for them. They're taking young girls who are confused about their sexuality, and because maybe they produce more testosterone or maybe it's because they just like boy stuff. The adults around them see this and think that they're a different gender and then try to transition them, when if they would have just left them alone, they would have just been gay.
Or figured it out at a later time when they actually knew what they wanted.
Yeah. But it seems like in today's day and age, it is worse to be a lesbian than almost anything else, because a young girl isn't allowed to just, figure it out. She's not allowed to just enjoy wearing boys' clothes and playing sports or
Riding a
whatever,
skateboard or whatever she likes to do.
masculine thing she wants to do. She's not left to do that. She's not left to just like girls. She's told that if she likes girls and she likes boy stuff, then maybe her gender is different and she
Maybe
needs to.
your insides don't match your outsides. Do you
Yeah.
ever feel like that?
Instead of just letting her be a tomboy, letting her be a lesbian. And the sad thing is, what pisses me off the most is that when these young girls grow up, they're not going to be any sort of ideal mate or close to any sort of mate for a lesbian.
There's
a
no
lesbian,
mating
A lesbian
anymore.
will not want to date a trans man
There's no mating at that point.
or a trans woman. It's like, I know.
Yeah.
But these girls, they like girls, and then they are manipulated into transitioning. And then when they eventually grow up, they're going to like these girls, and these girls are going to be like, I don't like women who say they're men. I like butch women, or I like feminine women who are actually, women, and you guys are saying that you're men, and I'm a lesbian, so I'm not going to date you. And so all these transitioned women who are now men are going to have no dating opportunities whatsoever.
I
Maybe.
think
there,
that there's
sporadically.
a big missing piece, which nobody's been talking about as they should. How successful of a relationship are you going to have if you cannot have sex?
Ooh, that's a big one.
That's why I say there's literally no mating.
Well,
When your partner-
you have to explain what you mean by that.
When your partner becomes asexual because they either cannot get off physically, or they will not, or the hormones make it impossible, or they had surgeries that make it literally impossible to
Or puberty
get
blockers,
off.
which did it.
Oh, how big of a component is that in your relationship? For me, it's a pretty big component. I need physical intimacy. And there are people growing up right now who will never, for a second of their lifetime, know the butterflies from being intimate with the first person they were with. They won't even know what it's like to begin to feel arousal because they were too obsessed with their own body and all these ideas thrown in their head. Social confusion? I think that's right.
Well, they say that puberty blockers are reversible.
I don't think anyone is maintaining that anymore because I haven't heard that argument as much. I still hear it occasionally, but like, remember that couple we saw in Love Don't Judge? They were both trans.
Yeah.
And even they were like, do not do this until you know for sure, because once you're on them for 2 years, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if even couples who are both trans can say that, maybe we kill that narrative,
Corporate analysis of the trans surgery industry last week. Growth rate projection for you lefty types and your anti-corporatism. Growth rate projection, 15% per year. Invest now. A $350 million business as of 2022, projected to expand to $750 million by 2027. No moral hazard there. And that surgery is absolutely brutal.
So what percentage of the population do you think is going to end up being trans at the end of this?
What's your guess?
At the end when everything falls apart,
Yeah. How many will have been trans by that time?
once the social confusion's gone, what's the actual rate of transgender people? I would say maybe 5 to 10% at a high end.
No, that's not what they're asking. No,
If you're
no.
saying how many people are going to suffer from going through such insane
Yes,
procedures,
that.
I'm going to say that in today's community,
How much percentage of the population?
at least 15%, at least 50 to 20% are going to sit there. So that's like 1 in every 5 or 6 people that made the decision to say, hey, do it. I don't care how I feel. I care what I look like. Social
I
confusion.
would say 15% is about good. It is about right. That will have medically transitioned. So that's like, and if I was being generous, I would say at the least 5% of the population, at the most 20, 15. But that's a lot of people who are going to be relying on not only the government, but on pharmaceuticals, Medicaid, Medicare.
Let me help you out here. Not only are you relying on the government,
Yeah.
now you cannot get off.
Yeah.
Now you have no love life because you're just looking for a friend to stay with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Now you are miserable. Now your voice is deepened or your balls are really small.
You're a pecker.
How fun does this sound? Your 9 to 5 is going to be your only solace in life. Good luck. You can't have kids. You could adopt at best. You have a loveless marriage, and you depend on the government. Oh, yay, done.
Well, the problem is these activists pull out these statistics, but what they don't tell you is there has not been a long-term study that's been done on these people in order to see how this works out for them, like 10, 15 years down the line. The studies that are being done are right now. So the people who are going through these medical transitions are part of the experiment,
Well,
So by the time we do find out what happens, there's going to be a lot more people who are going to be on the verge of ending their life. So when people use the excuse, would you rather have a dead son or an alive daughter, it really infuriates me because not only is it emotionally manipulating people, it's throwing out these false statistics, this false narrative, and there's no proof that these people are going to take their life if they don't transition. If anything, when they do transition later on, it's going to go up at least 9 times. The unaliving rate's going to go up because they didn't deal with their brain. They were dealing with the outside. They were trying to change the outside and thinking that changing the outside would change their brain, which is not going to happen. It's a quick fix, but it's not a long-term fix. And not only that, but all the side effects that are going to come from the medications and all this shit that they have to go through, it's going to be a living hell and a nightmare.
you're talking about issues. This is from Sweden.
Yeah, this is
And-
the only fucking study that they have.
And basically, the results say what everyone says. The overall mortality for sex reassigned persons was higher during a follow-up than for the controls of the same birth sex, particularly death from unaliving. Sex-assigned persons had an increased risk for attempts during the follow-up and psychiatric inpatient care. Comparisons with control matched on reassignment sex yielded similar results. Females to males, but not males to females, had a higher risk for criminal convictions rather than their respective birth sex controls. So the women to men become way
More aggressive.
more aggressive and end up in jail more often. So this is the conclusion of this study.
It has to do with the testosterone.
Our findings suggest that sex reassignment, although alleviating gender dysphoria, may not suffice as a treatment for transsexualism and should inspire improved psychiatric and somatic care after sex assignment. So basically, what they're saying is it might seem like it works for a minute, but it doesn't really do anything for the transsexual issue.
When things sound too good to be true, they usually are. And these activists who are all over the internet claiming that this is the quick fix for being uncomfortable in your body, these people aren't speaking from experience or facts or data. They're speaking from a place of narcissism, vanity, and greed. They have something to gain and they're trying to get it. You have to think about when these people are talking, what are they gaining? They're all trying to gain something. This is individualism.
I want to date this a little bit. This survey took place from 1973 to 2003. This was released in 2011. Just so everyone knows, it's older, but it should be proving that we've had this knowledge, and yet people still say this is the fix. $700 million by 2027. But science has already proved in a progressive country, there's no point.
And this study was finished in 2003. So
And it was a good sized study.
But I'm sure that the medications and the surgeries are all going to be different because of the medicalization that is increased when it comes to transitioning.
Yes,
It's going to be way wilder.
This was at least, they used 48 people for this survey. They used 324 people who had sexual reassignment surgery. And then they matched those people to they found another group
Were
of people.
Were these people rushed into sex reassignment surgery, or did they have to do the 2 years thing like they had to do here?
They probably weren't rushed since it was 73 when they started this.
So long-term studies that we have going on today are going to tell us a
lot more.
A lot more because now people are being rushed into it.
I'm not trying to I just wanted to show that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot more kids are being rushed into it. Are these adults? Or are these children that were being
I'm sure these
surveyed?
were adults.
Okay. So now we have the study here is going to be completely different than the study now, which is kids are being transitioned. It's being rushed. There's probably a lot more medication, a lot different medication. Surgeries are different. I'm sure the results, the long-term results of these studies that are happening now are going to be wild.
End up being trans at the end of this? Do you think like
It
one day
depends
it's
on how
going to
you
be like
define it.
70% of the
we know
country is
already
trans?
Well, we know already that about 1 in 5 adolescents now identifies, to use that hated word, identifies as part of the hypothetical LGBTQ plus community.
1 in 5,
20%.
though. 1 in 5 is not transitioning. 1 in 5 is saying
Identifying.
this is self-ID.
Mhm.
So I don't believe in self-ID because I don't trust anyone. Like I don't trust anyone, so I'm not going to be like, "Oh, I believe you. I don't know you. You could be a horrible
You're
person
not a
who's lying
child.
to me."
You're not a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so when
I
you're a
don't-
kid, right? Let's say you really want to be an astronaut, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you get space theme shit, you do it all up, and there's like 5 years you want to be an astronaut. Now imagine instead of wanting to be an astronaut, you wanted to be a boy. You don't think that you'd have a different opinion now?
different opinion on what?
On how they're identifying and that they aren't necessarily going to change. It might be an identification thing, but if they buy into it long enough, then they're going to want to change something.
That's very true. I feel bad for the people that buy into the people who are self-IDing.
Well, it's usually the young kids, man. It's young kids and then these young girls who don't know any better, man.
Limit is. There's a consulting group in the UK now that's claiming there's 150 different genders. There's actually, I suppose, 7 billion different genders if you want to get technical about it, because everybody's temperament differs. But I don't know what the upper limit is, and I have no idea what the upper limit is for this surgical intervention. We'll see.
Doesn't
But
that,
I don't find it. I don't find it the least bit acceptable. And if you think that your compassion is demanding that you extend your pity to the LGBTQ plus community at the cost of sterilizing children, you should think again. You're on the wrong side of this, and not in a
hold
trivial
on.
way.
I would appreciate if you don't ascribe beliefs to me that I don't have. Remember, my original question was
Well,
about...
you said earlier in
Well,
this question that,
I said
that you
Elliot
were.
Page is an adult, and so do you think that he has the right to
Yeah, but
transition?
This sounds cruel, but fuck it. I would put money on it that Elliot Page is probably incredibly miserable. I've seen this person's interviews. As much trans joy as Elliot is oozing, it looks a lot like on the edge of jumping off a cliff. It looks like incredibly depressed. What the fuck did I do? Now I'm all in, so I might as well just ride this thing out. That's what it looks like. And I'll insert a clip of Elliot Page's interview so you could see how happy Elliot is.
Yeah, but as a star
Mm-hmm.
and a public figure, model for emulation,
Mm-hmm.
she also has the responsibility not to entice confused adolescents into a catastrophic decision before they have the maturity to make that decision.
I think it's a little bit of a moral panic. I just don't see some sort of frenzy of
Okay, what
people
would you
wanting
consider-
to become trans. What?
Why don't
is
you
that-
take a look at the increases in surgical interventions and see what you think? I mean, how many do you think is
Well,
too many?
The argument is it used to be very repressed because that's very outside of the tradition and the norm and the standard. And that now, when you sort of let the boot off the neck a little bit.
What used to be suppressed?
As the entire LGBTQ community. I mean, it was very recently we even got gay marriage in the United States.
First of all, they're not a community.
Well, you understand the point I'm
community? Making. No, actually, neither I understand it nor you, and that's why we're delving into it. First of all, they're not a community.
I feel really bad for these left-wing media commentators. I feel really, really bad for them, especially the men. I don't know, actually, because the women are pretty bad too. But it's sad that they're so intellectual, and yet they're missing this cog in their brain that makes everything else function. It's like you are missing this other area that is so
hidden piece.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because they don't want to see it or because they have been subliminally manipulated or maybe they're just too stuck up and vain to know that there is a reality outside their perspective. But there's no community.
Where's community when you're calling us TERFs? We're not in that community.
Lesbians cannot be in the community of the LGBTQ because being trans and transitioning children is transing the gay way. So it's kind of like when the Christians used to take us into conversion camps, conversion therapy. They pray over you and all this shit, or put electrodes on your balls and then show you naked men if you're a gay man.
In hopes that you're going to throw up when you see a penis.
Exactly. Yeah. So now what they're doing is they're saying, oh, this guy, this little boy, he likes girl stuff. He likes wearing nail polish. He likes pink stuff. He likes wearing dresses. Mm-hmm. He likes boys. Well, it'll be a lot easier for him to live as a woman than to live as a gay man. Because they see that these children aren't going towards their stereotypical gender stereotypes, because they're not going towards that.
Why do you think
they're trying to transition them?
Wait, why do you think people who are transitioning to begin with?
Because they have internalized homophobia?
Because there is something that they're just not accepting. But I will continue to say this, and I'm not necessarily religious at all. Being trans and being gay are not the same thing. They're not in the same community, okay?
Actually,
they can overlap. You can be gay and also be trans, but they cannot be the same. I don't want to change my body like that. I just want to kiss girls. There's a big difference. There's some disconnect between their head and their version of God. That's my opinion.
You can't be trans and be gay. If you're a trans man and you're a woman.
No, like there's literally...
So you're a trans man, right? So you're identifying as a man, but you're a woman, and you like men. That just makes you a straight woman who's identifying as a man.
This is what's been so confusing for so long. It's because, okay, now you're gay because you changed your gender, right? But at the end of the day, are you a man who's attracted to men, or are you a man who's attracted to women? Because there's a big difference.
You can't transition into being gay.
If you tell me that you were born with a penis, but you're a lesbian, I cannot get behind that.
I look at you as if you are a straight man at a club coming up to me, and when I tell you I'm a lesbian, you say I'm a lesbian too.
So why do they transition in the first place?
Because they have internalized homophobia. Because maybe their parents think it'll be easier for them to transition into the gender that fits with their stereotypical likings of the opposite sex.
Furthermore, it really wasn't accepted back then. In the times he's talking about?
Yeah, but that's back then.
It wasn't accepted. People still were fine. They figured it out.
I figured it out. I always knew.
I'm okay with guys that want to wear dresses. I'm okay. I don't care. Dress how you want to dress. I don't care.
The fact that you're transitioning children because they like...
There's some
Because a little girl likes blue and trucks doesn't mean that she should be a boy. It means she should grow up and just date women if she wants to. If that's what she wants to do. She can dress like a dude. She could be a butch lesbian. She doesn't need to take fucking testosterone and puberty blockers. Why can't she just grow up and be a butch lesbian if she wants to? If she wants to wear a strap on while she's walking around so she feels like she has a penis, fine. Do it. Whatever. But at least she didn't fuck up her body. Now she can still have a normal sex life. She can still have kids if she wants to.
She'll have a love life.
Exactly.
Almost all the kids who are undergoing surgical intervention 80% of kids with gender dysphoria identify as homosexual when they mature. 80%. And that means the vast majority of people who are being converted surgically are gay.
And what does that do for the gay person who surgically transitioned?
You just killed every last bit of their gay.
No more gay sex. Guess what transitioning to kids does? It eradicates gays. It eradicates lesbians. It eradicates gay sex, lesbian sex entirely.
I can't imagine you gain pleasure after that.
You can't.
I don't know if I've said this on here, but when I was with the person who was considering doing those kind of things, crazy.
Yeah.
They spoke with someone who was female to male who had the procedure and literally said, it's not worth it unless it's really bad. They asked about sex, and this person said, it's not really good at all. It's weird and kind of uncomfortable. So, from the horse's mouth to your ears.
Also, when they have to make a vagina, sometimes they have to take from the colon,
And the
and usually what happens is it can get, I don't know if they call it an infection or something because of the waste that comes out and is now. Sometimes it can come out.
How is that an advantage to the gay community precisely?
No, see, I'm not taking a position in any way, shape, or form on the kids because I don't know the first thing about this to comment on the kids.
You don't know enough to comment on the kids, which means the kids don't know enough to do this kind of thing.
The original question was
They're
about
kids.
the adults and what your take is on the adults. And it sounds to me like, let me ask you guys, would you ban transition surgery for adults?
Okay, so that's pretty much the end of the video. That was the question. That was what I wanted to get to at the end of this video. Would you ban transitioning for adults?
I'm not... Okay. Don't ban transitioning, but you need to have better fucking systems behind it, okay? Because this is why this question's coming up. If you actually vetted them properly and gave them the proper medical care they needed instead of trying to get your fucking pockets lined, then this wouldn't even be a conversation right now. It wouldn't even be a conversation right now. If you actually did the right process. You know how long it took me to get an antidepressant? Why is it taking half a second to get transitioned?
Would you ban a surgery for someone who believed that they were born without eyeballs?
That's why I'm saying we wouldn't have this conversation if they did the right shit. Now you're getting questions like this.
Okay, but what most people would say was they would say, well, that's different.
It's gone, it's gone. It's necessary for a reason, it's gone, it's gone. My point is, this is why we're having this conversation.
What's the difference between, I think it's body dysmorphia and gender dysphoria?
Body dysmorphia and gender dysphoria.
Yeah. I mean, aside from the whole, it's gender and...
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Gender dysphoria is being saddened or not happy, dysphoria, extremely unhappy, with your gender. That's a catch-22 in itself, because gender is a social construct.
Yeah.
The difference is that someone with body dysmorphia versus gender dysmorphia is that
Dysphoria.
Yeah, same idea. Gender dysphoria is all to do with your, apparently, but it's not, because it's also just how you want to present yourself out in public. Body dysmorphia, dysphoria, dysmorphia, because it looks different to you.
How can you feel like you're born in the wrong body if you never knew what it was like to be in the other body?
Body dysmorphia is you look in a mirror and you add 30 pounds onto yourself every time. And go from there. Gender dysmorphia is completely this social confusion thing.
People with body dysmorphia, they can go to a surgeon and get lipo.
But there's
That's not
nothing to
illegal.
suck off.
Well, if there's nothing... Okay. So if there's nothing to remove, they're like Eugenia Cooney looking, would that be illegal for a doctor to go in there and try to remove the rest of the fat, even though there's no fat?
I'm not saying that. I'm asking if it's illegal for her to go to a weight loss specialist.
And I think that's where the do no harm thing comes in.
But they don't see harm.
Then they shouldn't be doctors.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
If we
Like I
just
said.
start giving surgeries out to anyone who feels like they were born in a different body, whether it's male, female, no eyes, one arm,
Born a dog.
yeah. I mean, did you hear that story about the two guys who they put an ad in the newspaper and then they met up at a hotel?
Yes, ate each other. Well, he ate the guy's, like,
His groin area. Mm-hmm. He ate his
munched on down.
that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
I can't remember if they got arrested or what
He did.
happened.
Because
Well, that was illegal. Why was that
the
illegal?
question of that,
They were both consenting parties, right?
the question of that is it a crime if it's two consensual parties?
I would say that cutting off someone's body part, even if they were consenting, and they're a healthy human being.
They're not healthy if they're consenting to that.
I didn't say healthy up here.
That's my point.
I meant physically healthy, mentally unwell. I mean, if everyone is okay with that, we need to reevaluate the mental health, the therapists and the psychologists and psychiatrists of the world. We need to do, or at least this country, we need to do a big reevaluation.
You know how
Because there's a lot of fucked up people in this world who are just getting surgeries for no reason.
You know how when they were building the United States, they were like, we should have a three-party system so there's checks and balances, because if one person does it, then that's a little sketch, don't you think? Why are we not doing that for people's fucking bodies? Body's your temple, bro. Your temple's getting knocked down.
Why did it change? When I was at and the one person that I went to with had to, when this person transitioned, they told me what they had to go through. And it was like 2 years. And lots of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Why did it change? Why did it change to go into Planned Parenthood and you can come out with testosterone or puberty blockers? No, why?
He just
Why
said
now?
that the business of gender, like this whole gender dysphoria, is currently at $250 million. Billion? Million. Either way, big. And it's projected to go to 700 in 4 years.
You would think that these people who are for this would take that into consideration, that maybe the people who saying that they're here to help them are actually there for selfish reasons. And shouldn't we be vetting these people to make sure that this doesn't happen?
Do you remember how this year is the year people are finally, even the gay people were like, Target, you're a little too much, right? This
Yeah.
was the year? Mm-hmm. Okay. When do you think that's going to happen?
When do I think what's going to happen?
For this. That was a little too much, because clearly
2 years.
that came from people going into Target and seeing that they were being pandered to for their money, but people cannot see that this is something that's pandering to them for their money and also killing their children.
2 years.
Killing your children's lives at the very least.
Hey, once again, the camera is overheating, so we can't finish the video, but like and subscribe.
Actually, really subscribe, though, because like 82% of you guys are not subscribed, and that's some crazy-ass numbers, okay? We need a better camera.
As much as I don't like to ask people for money, you know, there's a super chat button, which would be very, very beneficial for
I'm
us.
not asking you
Thank
for money. I'm asking you to click one button to put me with the hundreds of other people you're subscribed to. You know you want to. Do it.